Young people today believe sleeping around and doing whatever they want is what is called freedom. But the question is, what is the cost to the society? What are the negative effects to the society of having such a culture? This was never our culture as Africans, and young people are being bred into it without understanding that this is actually not our culture at all. They don't even know the identity of Black Africans. So in this video, my aim is try to address and educate and try to have a conversation so that us as Black people, we can understand what is our culture and what is not our culture, what was brought to us and which is actually destroying us in the name of freedom. First of all, we need to define a family, a nuclear family, which consists of a mother, a father, and the children. That is called a nuclear family. That is a cornerstone of any society. There is no society which is built without a family. Imagine a society where it's just men or just single men and single women just living like that. That will never be a functional society. That nuclear society is being destroyed in so many ways through these teachings and through these influences from the West, especially through movies, through social media, and certain campaigns aimed to influence the world and tell the world that this is the right way to live. It is freedom. You can do whatever you want, your body, your choice, and whatsoever. But this is aiming to destroy. And us as Africans, obviously, because of our insecurities and our inferiorities, we think the West is the most successful society in the world because of obviously what we have been taught and what we've been told. So we think adapting every single thing that they do is what is going to make us prosperous, not understanding that certain things we don't need to copy. It is their own culture. We don't need to abandon our own ways that preserves our own societies in order, because once you have broken families, it means the society will stop functioning. You would start having problems. For example, number one, crime. The first thing that happens in a broken society is crime. Who commits crime? Usually it's men, and especially young men. Why? Because a boy, when he is growing up, at some point a boy is gonna require a father. Listen, I am a man. I'm not despising women who are raising boys, but I'm saying to you, as a man myself, I've been a boy before. There's a point when that puberty hits and the hormones are happening in your body. You need a man. You need a man as a role model and as a figure of authority at home to be able to control you and show you the way. You need a man who's going to tell you not to do certain things that you might start wanting to indulge in at that young age as a teen. Okay, you need a man. Once the father is not available at home, there's a point where mama cannot tell me what to do. There's a point where I feel like I'm a man enough. I can't be told anything by my mother. In as much as the respect is there, but the authority and the power and the ability to enforce certain things and say, oh, you cannot come at my house at 12 o'clock at night. Where are you going and what are you doing? Why are you doing this and why are you doing that? As long as that figure is not available, it means I can do whatever I want. And of course, because we are promoting these new ideas that discourages marriages and which does not foster nuclear homes where fathers are available, people are going around, sleeping around, doing whatever they want, because we assume it's freedom. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is people still get pregnant and still give birth to children, and those children, some of them are boys, and then the father is not available to be able to guide this young man, and then he ends up committing crime. He ends up starting robbing people, committing murder, because there's no father figure in order to guide this young man into the right paths, into things that he is not supposed to do and things that he's supposed to do that can benefit the society. Another side effect of this broken society, of these broken families, of these ideologies of you can do whatever you want, you don't need to be married, you don't need to be in a nuclear family. It obviously the rise and the pandemic of HIV and AIDS. I mean, Africa is at the top when it comes to the numbers of HIV and AIDS, and some certain countries within within Africa. Obviously, I'm not going to name names, but you know what I'm talking about. Of course, it's because when you are single and you're doing your things, you keep on sleeping with different partners over and over and over again. If you're not married and you're not committed to one partner, it simply means you can do whatever you want and sleep with different people, and get HIV and AIDS and transmit it to another person. That is a problem on its own, and it's destroying and it's devouring our societies. And if we do not wake up, we are going to be in a serious trouble. Another problem of broken families, of course, it's gonna become a cycle. It continues on and on and on. It actually becomes worse and worse. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are a mother and you are raising a daughter. If you are raising a daughter and your daughter is now 14, 15, and you're still dating, you have a big problem. In a normal setup, you're supposed to be married to your husband and you have your daughter at home, and she doesn't think much of what you're doing because you're married to daddy, and she respects her father, and all she knows is her father. But if you're still dating and sleeping around and having different partners, it simply means she's seeing exactly what you're doing, and she brings it into thought now and ask herself questions. What is going on here? You yourself, you can never tell her not to do what you're doing. It's just logic. Okay, you cannot tell your daughter not to do exactly what you're doing. What she is gonna do is exactly what you're doing. You cannot tell her to stay at home at night when you're sleeping out, when you're going to store, going clubbing and still drinking and having different partners, and she knows about this story, and you want to tell her to stay at home and sleep, not to do what you're doing. There's just no way. Once you're out and you're busy grooving and doing your thing, she's also going to just do exactly what you're doing, because there is now nobody at home to tell her to stay at home or sleep at home and be responsible. So the whole society is broken, because you're raising another child who is going to do exactly the same as what you have done, and then their child and their child. Then it becomes a cycle, and it continues on and on and on again. And the last point, it's a lot of these points. I'm not gonna go all into all these points, but the last point is obviously poverty and the burden to the society and the burden to the government and all of that. Thank God if you have a government which can actually give subsidies to children because their fathers are not available to take responsibility of them. And I'm not promoting men for not being responsible. Please, wherever you are and whenever you are, please make sure you take responsibility of your children. But here is the reality. Outside of marriage, a lot of men do not take responsibility of their children. That's just how it is. We can talk about that conversation on a different day to tell all the men to be responsible. But unfortunately, the reality is a lot of men do not want to be responsible for their children if they're not living with them. That's just reality, and we all know it, and we know it's true. So to prevent and avoid all these circumstances or a situation whereby you end up having to take all the responsibility and actually be squeezed without enough resources to raise a child and educate the child, and ending up depending on the government end up spending more money on social programs, which that money could have been used for something else, for the development of the country. So the best thing is to promote a nuclear family where a father and a mother and their children stay together, so that this man can be responsible, because it just becomes very complicated when the man has 3 children with 3 different mothers. You have 4 different children with 4 different men. I mean, how do you get this thing to work? The man struggles to get to be responsible and share his own resources and all his attention towards all these children with different mothers, and the same as you as a mother. How do you even manage it? So many times men will feel like, I'm not gonna give you my money if you have 3 other children from a different man. I don't know whether it's my child only who's gonna eat, or that you wanna end up giving other people's children. That it becomes a whole lot complicated. At the end of the day, men just stays away from the lives of their children, and it becomes a problem. And we have burden to our parents and to the society in general, because if you get into the business of making kids, you sleep around, get another child, drop it by your mother, another one, drop it by your mother. Do you understand the burden to your mother? And do you understand that these children are not going to have enough attention or any attention at all from parents? They end up being raised by the streets and do whatever they want, and end up creating the same cycle, creating crime and the rest of it. So we need to be responsible. We need to understand that these ideas, this nonsense that has been fed to us by the Western narrative, it's never been our culture. It was not our culture from from the start. We had a culture of responsibility as Africans. We should stop adopting and following every single thing that other people do. It's none of our business. Let's maintain. We need to copy technology, but not get rid of our own culture and our own values just because we want to live like other people. We're not monkeys. Yeah, we need to be responsible. These ideas were never our ideas. We didn't have white weddings. We didn't have all these marriage laws. We didn't have all these divorce laws, which are making it even difficult for families to stay together, which is making it difficult even for men to think about getting married, because they are told that for you to be married, you need to have a white wedding and you have to pay all these expenses, which they genuinely don't have the resources to do so. They know when they divorce, they're going to go through all these difficult divorce laws and whatsoever, and court and whatsoever, which is going to destroy them at the end of the day. So men would rather stay out of it. This was never our ideas. Let them stay there by the West. Let's stay within our own values and our own traditions. We have introduced the capitalism in marriages, and we have introduced the capitalism in lobola. Nowadays, it's no longer the fact that I'm paying cattle and cows in appreciation that I'm getting married to your beautiful daughter. It's now a transaction. It's now as if you're selling your daughter to me. You know, it's about 20 cattle and $20,000. And I'm saying we need to wake up as Africans before we get worse. You know, the Westerners are crying already. They have risen up to it. Certain people within their societies are waking up to this